Hi everybody, it's Steve Brillo at BPM Skis. Today we are doing part 3 of our tuning series. I'm sorry for the delay, it's been a while. But what part 3 is about is our ghetto tuning video. And it shouldn't be called ghetto tuning, it should be called creative tuning. Because really what we're doing is, we're using our imagination, getting creative about how exactly we can tune our gear without using the really high-end expensive equipment. And I remember my roots, where I started as a skier. And really, when you get into skiing, that upfront cost it's a lot of money. I'm not gonna lie. And for somebody in my case, I just got out of college and got my first real job, and we're looking for something to do during the wintertime. And I spent $50 on a pair of skis, and I couldn't justify spending $100 on getting my gear tuned. So it was one of those things you had to get a little bit creative and think outside the box in order to have a better experience. So as you can tell, I'm sitting on the floor today because we're starting out with nothing, and we're going to dive into this and we'll see where it goes. So today we'll be working on my daughter Abby's skis from last year. So she actually has a new pair on the way right now, and it'll give us a good chance to work on something that's been used a little bit. So if you look at the bases on these skis, they actually look pretty good. They're a little bit chalky. They need some wax on them, but all in all, they're in good shape. Nothing super major that we really need to repair, and that's what we're looking for. So now that we're ready to start tuning our gear, what we really need to do is look at our surroundings and where exactly we're going to be doing this. So this is relatively messy. So obviously you don't want to have this in an area that you want to relatively keep clean. On the other hand, it does have to be relatively clean because you don't want to be getting dirt and other grime back in your ski anyways. So I just picked my garage floor. What I used to end up doing is I did it in my kitchen all the time. But I would always put something down on the floor so I didn't get all the wax all over the place, because it can get sticky and messy, and it's just not good. So if you're going to do it inside, make sure that you put either a tarp or I use a bed sheet before. And what we really need to think about first is getting them off the ground. So there's a handful of different ways you could do this. I used to roll up towels, old towels, into a big ball. Basically, would get them so you get them off the ground. The other thing is like I just have 2 totes here, right? So you can use the 2 totes and a couple washcloths, something as simple as this. Now you don't have plastic on plastic type thing, and we can kind of rotate it like this and use this as a vise. It's not really a vise, but it's more so just propping it up off the ground so you can work on it. So, and notice, now if I flip it upside down, the bindings are not hitting the ground. It's really the main thing, is it gives us like a stable platform to actually work on. So now that we have a stable platform for our ski, what we need to do is we need to find a way to retain our brake back. So obviously a rubber band would be a very simple way to do this. But what I'm going to do is this time I'm going to use something a little bit different. So I'm going to use zip ties. Zip ties, obviously everybody has around their house. Very common thing. And what we're going to do is we're just going to tie these back, which is really simple. Obviously not as simple as a rubber band, but again, the idea is that we're not necessarily using stuff that, we're going to buy stuff. We're trying to make it simple and be creative, right? So look at that. So for this next part, we're going to be sharpening our edges. So again, if you watch any of our past videos, we talk about this little pocket tuner thing. This is the exact pocket tuner I used 20 years ago. They're still about, between $6 to $8 a piece. They do a fantastic job. One of the things you got to remember is they only cut one direction. And it's as simple as literally putting it on your base and applying pressure and sliding down it. And you can kind of listen, you can hear that it's actually cutting. If you go backwards, it doesn't sound like it's cutting. So this is not cutting. You can hear that. That's not correct. So basically what you want to do is keep on going until you look and see that you don't have any burrs, excessive burrs. And another simple way is to actually marker up the outside of your ski, the outside of your edge, and it'll show where you're removing material. If you're having a hard time removing the material, you might have to remove some of the sidewall. It gets a little bit more complicated there, but we ain't going to get into that today. But for the most part, this little pocket tuner will be able to remove everything you need. So now that our edges are sharpened, at this point, we need to look at getting some wax on these skis. So the bases look great. There isn't really any dirt or anything on them. They don't really need to be cleaned up. They just need wax. So at this point, we need some wax. So you can use basically any universal wax. As a beginner, I recommend just using the universal waxes that you can get. And as you get further into your skiing career, you can mess around with the different temps and stuff like that. But universal works great. So the stuff that I use is the white stuff. And then you need a heat source. So as far as the heat source goes, everybody knows where this is going. We have the trusty Black & Decker Quick and Easy 320 here. So I picked this guy up at Goodwill for a whopping $3.99 on a yellow day. So I got it half off. So this guy was $2. So that's pretty awesome. And really what we're looking for is to get our iron to a temp that the wax does not smoke. So really, I can show you on this guy here, basically it's barely on. So on a 0 to 7, this is at 1.5. And it probably doesn't even need to be that warm. But really what we're looking for is to be able to put some wax on there. And you can see it's not smoking when I put it on there. That's the main thing. At this point, it's just a matter of putting the wax on like you would with a normal waxing iron. So we're going to use the bottom of it to melt some wax on. Simple enough. As you can see, that's kind of getting in the way. Now, we're just going to go over it. We're melting that wax in. Trying to make the wax really consistent across the ski. You see I'm having kind of even a hard time melting this. We're going to turn it up a little bit, just a little bit. And the main thing is to remember that we are moving the iron back and forth consistently. We're not stopping at any point. That's the main thing, is you got to just keep it moving all the time. Do one front to back. This cord out of the way. And we have wax on our skis. Now that the ski has wax applied to it, you can see I flipped the ski around just so you have a better visual of what's going on. We need to remove the excess wax on there. So normally you'd have the hand scraper on there. One of the simple things that any skier should have it with them, especially if they're going by car, is a snow scraper. So a snow scraper is flat. That's just going to be a sharp a little bit. You got to be careful with this. Try not to gouge your ski with any of the sharp corners. This honestly is not very sharp at all. Again, I picked this up from the dollar store. So it's a matter of just scraping that wax off. And I'm working from tip to tail. And I'm just kind of getting that excess off there. See, this is as flat as a normal scraper would be, but again, this is one of those things where we're just trying to find a tool that will work to get the job mostly done. So I'm kind of going here a little bit, get that out. The ski's a little bit dished out there in the tip. Ironically, that works pretty well. So now that we're getting to our final finishing here, there's a couple basic things we can do. Obviously, with our normal ski tuning tools, we'd end up using brushes and all kinds of stuff right now. Scotch Brite works absolute wonders for this stuff. You can see I was kind of cleaning up the edges a little bit here. There's some rust on them. And you can still use brushes. So the other brushes are pretty expensive. This brush is not expensive at all. Again, so all this stuff I'm picking up here is from the dollar store. So Scotch Brite. This is basically as far as most people end up needing to go. They're just trying to get some wax on the bottom of their skis and they're trying to make it look nice, right? So again, just kind of wipe front to back. And if you look at this, I'm going to kind of buff this a little bit here. There's quite a bit of excess wax on there. I'm just kind of buffing it out using the Scotch Brite. The wax is still pretty soft right now too. I could have let it set up a little bit harder, but for most people, this is as far as really as they need to end up going. If you want to, you can use this brush too. That's another simple way to clean out your structure. Again, you can see how it's kind of roughing it up a little bit. Again, pretty simple. Working front to back. Scotch Brite again one more time. So after a little bit more Scotch Briting, you know, it actually cleans up very, very nice. So you can see the final finish here a little bit. See some of the scratches from Abby from when she was skiing last year. But they look great. I mean, it's one of those things where you don't really need expensive tools. So let's finish up the other ski and let's actually compare the two and see what they look like. So the final ski was waxed using a good iron, it was scraped using a good scraper, it was buffed using a buffing belt on my ski grinder, and then I even used a roto brush to finish it off. Now, let's compare the two. Now let's see if you can tell which one is which. So, we have ski number one here. Is that the Ghetto ski or is that the good ski? We have ski number two. Is that the Ghetto ski or is that the good ski? Well, let's look at the bindings here. That's the one that has the rubber band on it. And that's the one that has the zip tie. So as you can tell, you really can't tell the difference between the two of them. If you really pick it apart, you can see that I did have some extra wax on some of the parts of it. That could actually just be fixed using a little bit more time. So again, this is one of those things where, oh boy, me using the old school tools would probably take me about maybe 15 minutes to wax a pair of skis, where using my good stuff will probably take me about 3 minutes. So it goes drastically faster because it works better. But ultimately, the end result is going to be basically identical. So the main goal of today's video really was to show one really, really main thing. In ski tuning, there is a very basic concept of how things need to be done. If you understand basic ski tuning and watch this video, you'll notice that all the processes are basically the same, except I was just using a little bit different tools. one of the main things that to remember about though with all of this is the amount of effort that you put in really will reflect on your end results. So if you put a lot of time into it, they're going to ski a lot better. That's really what it is. So I'm Steve Brill with BPM Skis, and it looks like it's starting to snow again. So hopefully I see you guys out in the snow this year, and take care. Have a good season.